Hey guys, so this note is about the difference between B2B and B2C products, and especially in the software context. Um, I think one of the key difference, which is pretty obvious one, is that in B2B, it's a high price and low volume game. However, in B2C, generally speaking, it is low price and high volume game. But there are exceptions in all kind of these cases. Um, I think the second one is about more often than not, you will see is that in B2B cases, the buying group or the decision making group of buying a particular product or service is very different from the end user. So, which HR systems you should use, or which supply chain products you should use, or which kind of ERP product you should use. There is a different kind of buying committee, but the end users may be very different. In case of B2C product, in generally speaking, the user and buyer both are same, except those cases where there is an educational app and parents are buying it, but students are using it. But as a parent as well, you kind of use the product, but not in the same way as children would use it. So that's another kind of difference. The third one, I would say, is that trying a B2B product requires a lot more conviction, a lot more effort than a B2C product. And B2C product, you can just kind of start using the product, and you can realize the outcome pretty quickly. You can evaluate the product pretty quickly. But in B2B product, there are a lot of things to consider. A certain group of users should be able to use it. You might have to integrate with some existing infrastructure and solutions. You might have to deploy it. However, cloud has kind of reduced that barrier to entry a lot, but still, even if you are, let's say that you are testing a spending management solution, you need to integrate with your existing HR systems and things like that. So the conviction from to try the product is a lot higher. The demand kind of conviction is a bit higher in B2B product. I think the next one is a very kind of important one, and there's a dynamic between revenue per user and cost of acquisition of a customer. So you can also say the ratio of LTV versus CAC, or revenue per customer versus CAC. So I think this dynamic is a very interesting one, and you need to kind of understand what really works in B2B case and B2C cases. Mostly people say it's like 3:1, but I think you might have to kind of look at it for your specific product, and that what really works and what doesn't work. In case of in case of B2C product, you might like to keep your CAC low. You might have to kind of look at some channels or strategies which is scalable. In case of B2B product, things might kind of be things might play out very differently, where you might like to invest a lot on your sales and marketing before you can acquire customers. But even once those customers have been onboarded, they can stay with you for a longer time, and the revenue per customer may be a bit higher. So I think the understanding that dynamic and what really are different components, or what is really playing out below the surface in case of CAC and LTV. I think those understanding that mechanics and dynamics is very important in B2B and B2C cases, and they might be very different. I think the next one I would say is about testing and iterating on products. So I think the life cycle in B2B products is a lot longer than B2C. You need a lot more time in B2B products to kind of test and iterate, and you need to kind of wait for people to kind of adopt it before you can really evaluate what's working and what's not working. However, in B2C, you can do faster experiments. But again, generally speaking, and at a larger level, there could be some small product increments that you might do on B2B level as well, and you can test it with small segment of users once your product is already in the market and it is being used by large customers. I think these are like some of the differences. Another thing which jumps at me is the churn. So churn might be a bit lower in B2B because just because there is a high cost to kind of try a new product and evaluate a new product. You also kind of tend to stick around with the same product in B2B case, and that's why you will see any company which is using Oracle CBS versus any company which is using Oracle SAP. They don't switch a lot because it really requires like multi-year programs and multi-year kind of programs to be able to kind of move from one particular system to another system. And in B2C products you can kind of switch quickly. I think there could be some nuances with respect to non-functional requirements as well, which includes fraud, security, performance. I think even in B2C case, people are becoming more and more aware about the security and privacy, and they want to make sure that the data which is being shared with platforms or products is really being shared for a specific purpose, and they are also getting value from it, or they shouldn't kind of this data should not be shared. And compliances and regulations also come under the same bucket, where when you're working in a very large in a specific industry like finance or accounting or supply chain, or maybe law, or maybe any finance, or maybe any particular industry which is like government, or maybe education. And there are different kind of the regulatory needs that you might have to meet. In case of B2C products, these regulatory needs are strong, but not probably as strong as kind of B2B products. Because also organizations that are adopting it, they have their own kind of regulatory framework and their own risk management framework that you might have to kind of make sure that you abide with that. Although with advent of GDPR and other like privacy laws, I think you need to definitely comply with those as well when you're trying to build a B2C app. But there's more leeway in terms of B2C apps rather than B2B apps, because in some cases, in some industries, before you really sell your product to a B2B customer, there are some table stakes that you need to meet before you can really sell it. I can recall one of the examples from my career where in order to kind of sell to districts in US, you need to be WCAG compliant, which is the accessibility requirement. Without that, you won't have much luck kind of selling your product to districts. However, you can still sell those kind of educational products in different kind of other regions which are a bit more flexible with respect to accessibility. So yeah, I mean, these are like few things. The price and volume thing. I think the dynamic between LTP and CAC. Number 3 is like switching cost. Number 4 is like testing and iteration is much easier in B2C. Churn is lower in B2B, and then just the kind of the regulatory and non-functional requirements is also something which is very different and might be very different in B2B and B2C products.